right, hello, welcome to the Dr. Kirsten Show. I'm your host, Dr. Kirsten Lawrenson, and today I have a guest with me. We are going to dive into so much as far as weight loss and mindset. Tara Wiskow is with us. She is the founder and CEO of Be the Change You Need, where transformation begins from within. Tara's coaching business is an empowering platform dedicated to guiding women towards lasting change and fulfillment with a multifaceted approach. Tara serves as a weight loss coach, a mindset coach, motivational speaker, and podcast host, which, as many of you are, this is very much so in my wheelhouse as well. So this is going to be a super fun conversation. Tara, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Yeah. Well, why don't you go ahead and give us a little intro? Who are you? How'd you get to doing what you do? Tell us a little bit about your journey of getting into weight loss. I know that's a really powerful one, so feel free to kind of tell us who you are.
Yeah. So as you said, I'm Tara Wiskow. I live in far north Minnesota up on the Canadian border. I am a mom of three boys. My baby actually graduates high school next week, so I'm soon to
My
be an empty
gosh.
nester. Yes, so wild. I oftentimes question if I am old enough and mature enough to really have three adult children, but I guess I am. What brought me into this journey of becoming a weight loss coach? My personal journey with weight loss struggles. My senior year of high school, I went up 3 pant sizes. I was gaining weight
Mhm.
literally, I think, day after day. What I found out was I was diagnosed with very early stages of medullary thyroid cancer, and that was the reason for my weight gain. Also, a lot of unhealthy habits that I had learned from childhood, a very traumatic childhood experience that caused me to lose connection with myself. And all of those things led to self-sabotaging, binge eating, and brought me to the point of 338 pounds. I will never forget the day that my doctor, looked at me and said, Tara, you are morbidly obese, and we have to do something about this.
Mhm.
And that was a start of my journey of weight loss, of deciding that I should do something about it. And it was a road of very, very poor choices. The dieting world, as a coach, I refuse to allow my women to even think about dieting because dieting does not work. There was
Mhm.
the binge eating. I became anorexic, bulimic, all of the wrong processes of trying to lose weight. If the doctor subscribed it, if the internet suggested it, if a friend recommended it, I mean, there were pills, patches, wraps, creams with saran wrap. I mean, you name it, it was what I tried to do to lose the weight. That led to suicide. I attempted suicide 3 times because every single time I tried to lose weight, I failed
Mhm.
time and time again. My final suicide attempt, my middle son, he was 5 years old. He found me. And I will never forget the question, the look in his eyes when he said, Are you going to die, mama? In that moment, Kristen, I knew I had made an oath that I would never lie to my boys. It was an oath that I made because of an early childhood experience that I experienced with my parents and their lack of being truthful. I knew that it was either yes or it was no, and the answer that I gave him had to be the one that I lived with for the rest of my life. And I said no. And in that moment, it hit me that finally, for the very first time, in all the things that I'd been trying to do to lose weight, I'd been missing one thing. And it happened because I said, Tara, you have to find a way to love yourself as much as you love your boys so you can stay alive. That was a declaration that I made to myself that day in my bedroom. And it hit me. You've done everything to hate on yourself, but love yourself down the scale, everything but learn to love yourself exactly for who you are in this body that you hate
Mhm.
and where you're at in life. You've got to love yourself in order for you to commit to yourself,
Mhm.
which led me to losing over 220 pounds and becoming a bodybuilder and eventually a weight loss coach, mindset coach for women in my program. And it has been the most amazing journey getting to where I am here today.
That is an incredible journey. That
Yeah.
is incredible.
Thank you.
Oh man. We have so many places to go with that. I really want to jump off of though, or branch off of the loving yourself to like every pound, essentially, like loving yourself through the commitment to committing to yourself.
Yeah.
I think that's one thing that I see so often is that there's this, and maybe you can speak to this a little bit, but there's kind of um it's like body positivity. It's this like loving who you are, loving yourself. And then there's also this other conversation that's like, well, but I don't love where I'm at right now. But then that kind of leads into like accepting where they are right now. And I had in a very different, very, very different presentation. I had a lot of chronic illnesses like endometriosis and migraines, and I've had my share of really being in conflict with my body.
Sure.
So I can get at this from a different angle, but I do want to talk a little bit up to that. Like there's a varying ways of body positivity and love and acceptance. And I think sometimes it can feel like we're getting like we're kind of gaslighting or trying to like get over what really the actual like root problems are. So can you speak to that a little bit as far as like what you see and how you see that?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like myself, the women that I work with, we are afraid to say that we are okay with where we're at because we feel like we're becoming complacent, that we're accepting it, and that we're creating this as our permanent reality. And that's where I lived a lot of my life, is thinking that this was it. Like, I believe that God made two people, whoever you speak to, God, the higher power, the universe,
Yeah.
and they were the very fortunate people, the skinny women, the pretty women, the lucky women. And then there was me.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't one of them. And for whatever reason, I'm not sure why I got the short end of the stick. That's how I looked at it until I realized that I'm in full control of what I want, right? So we believe that if we say, well, I'm okay with my body now, that we're accepting it, and then we have to somehow pretend like we are okay with it, accept it as it is, be happy with what you've got. You should be fortunate. I've heard that so much in my life. You should be fortunate that you have two legs and you can walk.
Yeah.
Okay, I am grateful for that, but that doesn't mean that I have to accept where I'm at and be okay with where I'm at.
Right.
However, it's so important that we reframe it.
Mm-hmm.
I love who I am. I love myself. I accept myself. I appreciate myself. My body is not where I want it to be, and I'm working really hard on loving myself to where I want to be. It's all about reframing it. We don't have to accept our body and say that this is it, that this is as good as it gets, right? It's reframing it, accepting that this is our reality, loving ourselves fully, and being aware that we want something else for ourselves.
Yeah. It's like holding that duality, right? Of like both things can be true.
Yeah.
Both things can be true. I can also love myself and also want more and want better for myself. And I can want to heal and I can want to be I can want to improve.
Yes. And that's hard for us women. And I
Yeah.
have a post that I'm putting together for Mother's Day, and happy Mother's Day to all of the mamas out there, is we do not think that we should want to improve ourselves, or that we deserve to improve ourselves. We feel like we have to accept what the reality is in this moment because this is our life and we shouldn't want for more. Our role is to give and give and give, and that take is not part of our dimension of life.
Mm.
And I want whoever's listening to know that you deserve to be given. You deserve to take. You deserve to live a life that you love. There's nowhere that I've been able to find any research that says women are meant to be unhappy and never living a life that they enjoy and love. I cannot find any research that supports that because it doesn't exist.
Mhm. Yeah. For anybody listening, I have a course called Worthy, which is literally designed to help walk people through knowing and believing truly that they are worthy. And it's just such a big, just what you spoke to. I mean, I think we play small. We keep ourselves small because we're told to be small, that
Yeah.
we aren't expansive, that we can't hold all of these different facets of life, that we can't be a mom, that we also can't also
Mm.
have our own desires and our own dreams and our own life outside of just like motherhood. And it's so common to kind of like lose ourselves inside of it and then get to the other, kind of get in the middle of it all and be like, what happened? Like,
Yeah.
who am I at this point? Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
so
So
yeah, I mean, like this is so great. I'm curious, and this just runs right along with this. You mentioned you made a decision to do something about it. When you were in the middle of it, you were like, okay, I have this, and the thyroid cancer piece, I mean, my goodness, like that's so common that weight gain is tied to the
Mhm.
thyroid. Like I wish well, in my practice, but like I wish in general that thyroid screening was a lot better for
Yes.
women's health because
Yes.
as many people know, but or maybe don't know, like TSH is like one thyroid hormone that's usually checked, but there's so many other factors and pieces that go into it. And um, just how many times does thyroid stuff go unchecked that,
Mhm.
the body is showing signs and symptoms that there's a problem long before even we see it on the labs, as I'm assuming maybe that's kind of your situation, that you mentioned gaining weight and gaining weight and gaining weight and didn't really find an answer until things were pretty bad.
Right.
Um, do you I will get to the decision part. I went down the thyroid piece. Do you have any sort of like suggestions or things for people when it comes to the thyroid specifically that you find really helps for people?
Yeah, I'm glad that you're bringing this up. Both things, like the decision, but the thyroid, we need to talk about because there's not enough awareness around this. And I spend a lot of time in my program making my women aware, helping my women become aware. I haven't had a thyroid for 25 years. So I've got a lot of experience in working through the process of getting to a good place. There is not enough like information after the thyroid's removed to even help you understand what you're going to come up against, what's going to happen. Your hair, your skin, your mood, your cravings, your energy, your sex drive, your cold, very frequently, all the time. People don't understand why I cannot get warm. It's
Mhm.
thyroid related.
Right.
There are so many things that one does not know, that little butterfly looking organ that is in the front of your throat contributes to.
Yep.
Yes, right there. And so for me, the recommendations is be your best advocate. I went to my doctor. Thank goodness I've had my doctor since I was 15 years old, and he listened. He was brand new into the practice. He was young. He was wet behind the ears and probably shaking in his oversized shoes, learning, right? The ropes of being a doctor. And so here comes this 15-year-old girl that connected and got to know him. And so 5 years later, I'm diagnosed with medullary thyroid cancer. So he's very much part of my journey.
Hmm.
When I started to continue to struggle with my weight post surgery, I went to him and I said, something's not right.
Yeah.
I am not eating in a way that should be causing me to gain weight. And this is after I made that decision that it was time to actually take control. And he said, you know what, Tara, I just went to a conference. And one part of the conference that I went to was about thyroids.
Mm.
And it was about the levels, the TSH, the
Yep.
T3, the T4. And he said, we take those tests as what they are. It's like, this test says that your levels are fine. You're good. Continue on. And he said, what research is showing is that even though it says that you're right where you're supposed to be, that it might not be the right level for you.
Yeah.
And he said, we need to make some adaptations to your dosage and see how you feel. So he actually gave me more of the hormone replacement Synthroid and put me in a level that's higher than what the test levels were saying. And I felt amazing. I had more energy. I was in better spirits. I wasn't so depressed. It was incredible what
Yeah.
happened for me. So my biggest piece of advice is be your best advocate. And if your doctor will not hear you, go to another doctor. Do not just take that as face value that the doctor knows what he or she knows. And I'm not dissing doctors. Doctors get busy doing what they're doing, and they don't always think that there might be another alternative, that we need to look outside the box. You know your body. You live your life every single day. And if you jot down things that you're experiencing and you take that in and you're not being heard, find someone else. The other thing that I recommend is being on top of your blood draws. Like,
Yeah.
I don't just do once a year. I have multiple times. And part of it is because I'm a bodybuilder, so I am changing weight. I go into bulk mode, then I go into
Yeah.
lean mode. So
Right.
I need to be on top of that. However, even if you're not a bodybuilder, it's important for you to make sure that your levels are where they need to be. So I have my blood drawn at least 4 times a year. It's very, very important for me to keep tabs on that. And it's good comparison.
That's
And
so good.
as we age, especially women, things change.
Yeah,
So
they do.
it's good to be on top of it. So that's my best piece of advice.
Gosh, I'm obsessed with that.
Good. I'm
Um,
like, man, Tara, be careful. She's a doctor.
no, 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 no. You like you just every single step of the way. That's exactly it. I think we get sort of down. We think it's something that's wrong with us, right? When we kind of get to that, like, well, you didn't necessarily experience this per se, but it's very common that I see people start thinking like, oh, what am I doing wrong? When like their doctors are kind of saying like, well, like we don't have anything else for you. I don't know what else to do for you or what else to give you. These are all normal,
Yep.
but then you're still sitting there just like, well, it's not normal because this is
Yeah.
obviously not normal. Like this is not how this is supposed to be. And we can kind of get lost in that, like, well, if the doctor said, because they're the expert, like if the doctor said that, then like everything's fine, then there must be something wrong with me or like what I'm doing. And then it can lead down this mental loophole of just like so much stress and so much anxiety and like not getting anywhere. And it's tough to real like my point being that like you said, go see another doctor, don't accept anything until you get what you're looking for. And I think that's like the biggest word of hope.
Yeah.
It like that if it's not right, like keep going. Don't stop trying to find the solution because I mean, that's how I got here to where what I do and where and the healing that I, have made from endometriosis and migraines and all of that is like I just never stopped. I said, okay, like this doctor's gonna help me with this thing. And then as soon as that kind of like did its thing, then there were next pieces and I just followed that journey of pursuing getting better. Um, it's kind of it's the same journey.
Hmm.
Um, the other things I want to just really quickly touch on as far as thyroid goes is that there's also like so many things that go into a healthy thyroid. I mean, we talk about inflammation, we talk about very like so many vitamins and minerals. You talk about all the different labs that you run throughout the years. I work with and have worked with a lot of athletes, and like
Okay.
nutrient deficiencies are common. You also mentioned a lot of dieting in your
Yeah.
story and how frequently that dieting and the anorexia and a lot of the other and the binge eating and all of that, it can actually lead to a lot of nutrient deficiencies that can hurt the system even more. It kind of like digs the hole a little bit deeper. So getting that testing, gosh, it's so important to know where you stand and where you're at and have that baseline.
And making sure that you're taking your Synthroid or levothyroxine or whatever you take for a thyroid replacement or hormone replacement. What I learned is 2 hours. Like, it used to be 30 minutes. When I started 25 years ago, it was like you need to take it 30 minutes before you eat or drink anything, or 1 hour after you've eaten or drank something. Then it changed to an hour before or an hour after.
Yeah.
Now it's 2 hours. And I found 2 hours has been absolutely the best. And so I
Hmm.
take it at night. Like, I take it at night. because I know right before bed, I haven't eaten anything for 2 hours. And then in the morning, I can get up and take my vitamins. I can take my pre workout. I can go about my day and I don't have to worry about that timeline. For the longest time, it always said in the morning, take it in the morning. And I thought that that's what it had to be, that I was only able to take this in a morning. And so after me doing more research, asking, letting my doctor know that this is a struggle for me to do this in the morning, I realized you can take it at night. And I feel much, much better doing that.
Oh, how cool. You
Yes.
talk about being the change you need, being the change you need, being the change you need for yourself. You talked about deciding to do something about it, finally making that choice. But the choices that you made then kind of started you down a different path that wasn't necessarily the right choices, but it was a choice. You speak a little bit to that as far as when we make decisions to do something, when we decide to commit, what does that what does that do as far as with the brain and mindset and what's the power of making a choice? Even if it's maybe not the right one, it's the power of making a choice.
To be honest with you, I think that every decision that we make is the right decision. Even if it doesn't lead us to where we want to be, it's bringing us to the point where it ends. Like the purpose of that decision comes to an end and it leads us to the next stepping stone of the next choice, the next decision that we make. When you make a decision, when you decide to commit, and when I say you, I'm saying like we're not looking for the external validation of somebody else to tell us what to do. I lived my life like that for so long, waiting to be saved, waiting to be told what to do, waiting for the permission that I could actually do something for myself, right? It's when we decide this is what I'm doing for myself, and we don't wait for anybody to give us the yay or the nay. When you decide that, you start to open up this feeling of empowerment. You become empowered of, wow, this is something that is in my future that is possible if I commit to it. And there's two things that are going to determine, right, if you're going to successfully execute your goal of what you want. And there's many things, but the two things that I want to speak to now are commitment and then consistency. You can commit to something, but if you're not consistent with it, it's never going to come to fruition. It does not happen, right? It's like brushing your teeth. You can commit to brushing your teeth every day, but if you don't consistently do it, nothing's going to happen. And so once you make that decision, you start to become empowered of knowing that there's something that could be different for you in the future. You become excited. You become hopeful. You start to change the way you're thinking and feeling about your current situation. And it gives you this drive of wanting to go after something. When we decide for ourselves, that's where that empowerment is. When you wait for somebody else to tell you or for somebody else to decide for you, there's no empowerment in it. It's like being a child that's being told what they can and can't do, right? And there's a time and a place for that. Children need that. They don't have that ability to make big decisions for themselves. For us as adults, we need to make those decisions for ourselves. And that's where we start to create the pathway to change.
Mm, mm, yes. All of the above. Two things that came up for me there. One was that, you mentioned they're all right choices. And you mentioned that when you started that journey, it led to, I think this is a fear. This is a fear that people have, and I have experienced and gone through this of making that choice to go for something better,
Mhm.
to transform, to make that step, that leap of like hoping that like this is possible. But then it leads to something like trying to commit suicide.
Mhm.
It leads to something that you take a step back one day and you're like, well, that is the exact opposite of where I was planning to head. This looks entirely different than what I was planning on. Do you
Yeah.
have some tips for or some reframing or some mindset shifts that might help someone be able to say if they're in that place now or they're on that edge, that precipice of like, I wanna commit to what this transformation might look like, but I'm afraid that, like, maybe I might fail or maybe it might end up in a place where I don't wanna be, that seems so far away from what I actually wanna create.
Yeah. So you only fail when you quit on yourself. That's it, right? We have make mistakes. We don't succeed at things. We screw up hardcore, right? But you don't fail until you quit on yourself. For me, getting started, that's the most difficult piece of it because it is fear. Fear is false evidence appearing real. We can sit all day long coming up with all these things that are going to go wrong, the what ifs, the possibilities. You can never predict the future. You do not know what's on the other side of that door. You have no idea. So even if you are like, I will commit to do this and I will be consistent, if I can guarantee what I want is going to happen, you have no control over knowing that that's what is going to be in the future. And how do you know that what you think you want is really what you want until you get to that point and you're like, you know what? Like you said, like, shoot, dang, this is not what I thought I wanted. This is entirely different. Many of us women have stepped into a relationship with a guy and been like, man, you seemed like you blew all my whistles. And that's over, right? And so getting started is just making that decision of knowing that when you are in action, you're growing. I think Jim Rohn says it,
Oh, so good.
that you're either living or you're dying, right? And if you are not taking action, you're dying. That's the only thing that you're doing. And so even in action, even if it's leading you to a place where you're like, yep, I don't like this, you're at least growing, you're learning, you're becoming more confident, you're becoming empowered, and it brings you to the next road or step in the road, the paving path, whatever you want to call it, that takes you to the next level. Like I always believe everything that we go through is preparing us for the person that we're meant to be. We're a masterpiece in the making. If you stay as a block of clay, that's all you are forever and ever. Amen. But every single time you think about the artists that are crafting and how many of them see what they want to create and they get started and they realize that it doesn't look the way they want and they start all over again, right? We are the same. It's like the same concept. And I think when we look at it that way, it becomes exciting. It becomes so amazing to think, wow, this is what I learned in the journey. This is the great that came from this. This challenge helped me grow this way. If it wasn't for that heartache, I wouldn't know this or be this. All the things that I've went through, every bit. I used to hate my life. I used to hate God because he gave me a crap life. I am so grateful to him that he gave me everything that I went through because I can connect with women and men on so many levels beyond weight loss. It's incredible. So my biggest piece of advice is know that every evil has a blessing, always.
So good.
Thank you.
That is, I mean, that is exactly it. I feel like I'm kind of speaking to someone who has gone on a similar journey, but in a very different way. You're like
Yeah.
mirroring back to me parts of my journey.
For what I
But
heard that
it's
you went through, that's a battle. That's
yeah.
hard. And going through health struggles like that, you do take it personally. You do think there's something wrong with you or that you don't deserve to feel good or to be happy or to be confident in your body. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm sure a lot of what I'm saying is definitely pinging you in a lot of ways.
Yeah. You kept you, I you, wow, okay, words. I have loved exactly what you said there. I think there's a lot of power in like just you showed how your mindset is so important because
Yes.
as you mentioned like and as we've talked about when you keep centering it back on there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with me, there's something wrong with me versus how could this potentially be for me? Even like the
Yes.
worst of things, how could this potentially be for me? When I was younger, I also tried to commit suicide, and that was like my part of my journey of getting here to where I am today. And at the time, I was so angry. I was so
Mhm.
angry with everything that was going on in my life. And this was also at the same time that the endometriosis started coming on. So like when I speak to like the what you're talking about here is like, yes, all of the physical things in the physical body are important. We do need to dial those things in, but also
Yes.
healing ourselves, healing our subconscious mind, healing our mind, our brain, like those also, like those steps are so critical. And I think a lot of the times we just get lost inside of this. Like, I've got to take my medication. I've got to do this nutrition stuff. I've got to exercise. I've got to sleep. I've got to like
Mm.
do all of these things. And somehow I got to like rest and then like slow down and then like not be in hustle and then not be stressed and like meditate somewhere. But then I also got to take care of my kids. And then like, how do I do all these things? But there's this healing component, this mindset piece that we store so much of these past traumas, the stress, the negative emotions that go unprocessed and just repressed that can have these outcomes, these physical and outer outcomes that are a reflection of what's going on the inside. And you spoke
So
so
true.
well to that.
Thank you. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Yep.
Mindset is big.
It
I
is.
always say in my program, weight loss is the byproduct of what you get, right? You come to me saying, I need to lose 80 pounds. I'm miserable in my body. My clothes don't fit anymore. And you want to see and feel your body being different. That's what you want. But it's a byproduct of everything else that we're going to do. It is this headspace that we need to heal. We have to understand why. Why are you overweight? Why are you struggling to lose weight? Why can't you keep it off? Like, it's the why that we have to understand, because once we know that, we can reverse engineer, because we get to the blocks, the barriers, the childhood traumas, the limiting beliefs, the
Yes.
negative emotions, right? We get to all that that takes up space in our head, and we heal through it. Like, healing is like the word of, like, it's just vibrating everywhere I look, everybody I talk to is, healing is something that is becoming very known and accepted of what's needed in the world, but especially in the space of us women. Weight loss, health, happiness, wellness,
Yeah.
it's healing within the mindset space.
And the power of stepping into those containers that help you to embody that heat, like to be cut,
Yeah.
to transform and actually do the work. I think, just to your point, I think part of it, the reason why we're kind of seeing this next stage and this healing is like the kind of the root of a lot of it, is that we've kind of been in a lot of like an informational stage. Everything's been intellectual. It's like taking courses that are going to like
Mm,
teach you something so you can read books and you can do all this stuff to like help yourself. But I think people are now realizing that, like, yes, all of that is great,
yeah.
but it doesn't always allow you to like to make the change, to actually integrate it, to implement those changes. And this is something I've seen as far as the stuff that like I've created as far as the courses and things for people, is that it's not about information anymore. It's about actually helping people embody it, embrace it, become it, transform through it, implement it. It's integrating these things that have happened in our life. Um, Transformational medicine is what I've heard it called in some ways. Is it's like you no longer the physical body stuff is no longer the whole picture.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah.
And it takes action, right?
Oh, it takes so much action.
Yeah, because you can get inundated with all this knowledge. You can be an absolute genius and know everything you need to know, the ins, the outs, and do nothing with it, and nothing will change.
Yeah.
Nothing will change. And there's a lot of people that know it, they don't do anything with it. And then they oftentimes will slip into the victim mentality, because they think that the world's out to get them, or the world's, life's against them, or out to whatever their statement is. And it's not that. It's just that they're not taking what they know and putting it to work. They're not taking the steps. And if they would just take one step that would lead to the next, they would realize that life is absolutely for them. 100%.
Yeah. I love it. One of the other things too, I just wanted to highlight before we wrap up, is that you mentioned at the very, very beginning, talking about uh starting to learn to trust yourself,
Yeah.
which often comes through a journey through self-doubt. Can you speak
Mhm.
a little bit to where self-doubt tends to come from and how it can be sort of that self-sabotaging pattern that can lead in the opposite direction of where we want to go?
Yeah. I think self-doubt comes from a multitude of things. I really do. There's so many different ways that it can come. I mean, from failing a math test and being told, that you're not smart enough, or being disciplined at home for that, right? I know I pick math because thank goodness I have fingers and a calculator.
Hmm.
I think self-doubt comes from a lot of things, but mostly from the external things that we hear and accept when we are looking to others for validation. And we do that as a child, right? I,
Yep,
I am an
totally.
elementary teacher, and I don't teach in the classroom anymore. My teaching now is women. But I think back to that time, those students in my classroom, they're looking to me for the affirmation that they're smart enough. They're looking to me that they're good enough. And it just takes one person to ruin that for them, to give them the belief that they're not good enough, that they're not wanted, that they're not accepted. And I think that that's one way that self-doubt starts. It's the people that we spend our time with. It's the things that we say to ourselves. It's the language that we adopt and create the belief around. I'm an NLP practitioner, neuro-linguistic programming practitioner. And
Yep.
so in that space, it's like that unconscious 95% of your time is spent hearing these things on autopilot. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'll never be enough. I'll always be overweight. I'll always be a loser. It's the things that we keep on believing and regurgitating over and over. And so I think all of that creates that self doubt. How do you get out of that? It's speaking a different language to yourself. One of the things that I love to do, because I believe that we need to have physical activity with the mind,
Yep.
because it like cements it. So I love when someone has like a loose hairband that's not tight and you can put it around your wrist, or the rubber bracelets that are now out there, right? And when you hear yourself say, or you speak out loud, like, "Oh, I'm such an idiot," right? That's a thing that I used to say all the time. It's
Hmm.
like 30 seconds to take it back, right? Like, whoa, hold up, pull this band off, put it on the other side, and reframe that with something else.
Yep.
Like, I'm an amazing woman. I am so intelligent. Like, every single time you catch that, when you do a running dialogue, like, just spend 3 days writing down the things that you say that make you feel cruddy about yourself, that hurt you, that degrade you, that cause you to strengthen your self-doubt. Have a running dialogue of what that is, and then rewrite it with a reframe that's positive, that's affirming, that makes you feel amazing. And if you struggle with that, look to somebody that you know you can trust, that can give you the statement of what they see, right? Someone that you know. I feel like moms are the best but the worst, because they're the best because they tell us exactly, like, you are amazing, and they mean it. We think, "Oh yeah, that's what you're supposed to say because you're my
Yep.
mom," right? We don't necessarily believe it. So going to someone that you know you will believe and means it, and then catch yourself. Be intentional with catching yourself. Again, it's committing to it and it's being consistent. As soon as you hear yourself, even if you're on the phone with someone, you have to be like, whoa. And you can quietly do that, right? You can quietly do it. Tony Robbins is someone that I followed for years, and I love, love, love that he is like, you can change your energy in seconds. Like, and he does
Yeah.
a make your move thing, right? So it's like when you're in a cruddy feeling, you're down on yourself, you're angry with yourself, you're speaking crap about yourself, whatever it might be, it's like, just find your move. And he's always like, make your move, make your move, make your move. Yes. And then you celebrate yourself. And just doing that, like just doing that right now, I can feel like the vibration through my back, through my shoulders. And I'm like, hell yeah. Like, all of a sudden, I'm just like feeling it, right? It's just making that move. Or every time you go to the grocery store and the door just automatically opens for you. Come on now, it's opening for you, right? It's like, own
Totally.
that. Like, that's that big moment of owning, like, yep, this door just opened for me, right? Just
Hmm.
feeling that fun, positive things, doing little things like that are not difficult, that are not time consuming, help you to step out of that self-doubt and to see yourself in a different way. To I have a post going out actually at in about 11 minutes of how we're always looking to everybody else for our validation and instead go internally. And one of the best ways to do it is pick a quick goal that you can do every single day or a task you can do every day, commit to it for 14 days, even if it's brushing your teeth, right? Whatever's very quick and easy. Write it down on a piece of paper 14 times and decide, what do I have to do to complete it? Get the steps. You decide the steps. Don't go ask your husband. Don't ask your boyfriend. Don't ask your children. Don't ask your dog. You have to know the steps and you have to write them down. And every 14 days that you follow the steps, cross it off every day. And at the end of those 14 days, you feel like, oh my gosh, I decided to do this. I decided the steps to take it. I did it. And look at what happened. And that's big in helping us to begin to trust ourselves and going inward and asking ourselves for the answers that we have. We have the answers within us. We don't need to look outside, but we do because we don't trust ourselves.
Right. Yeah, the pattern interrupt that you mentioned as far as the wrist, like putting a bracelet or a hairband onto the other wrist or something like that, those pattern interrupts are so powerful.
Yes.
So powerful. We gotta interrupt that pattern, otherwise we end up down these mental spirals because those neuron pathways have fired so often for so long, for sometimes decades, we somehow have to start breaking them down. And in order to do that, we've got to interrupt the pattern and create something new. And the other thing I wanted to point out there too is with affirmations, sometimes it can be like, well, I feel like I'm saying that, but I'm not really sure I actually believe it's true. But there's
Mhm.
actually been several studies that have shown that like people who continued to repeat something to themselves, like I'm enough or I am worthy, or any of the I am loved, whatever that affirmation is, that they over time actually did start to believe it, and they also saw the life benefits from it as well. Like it's a thing. You don't actually have to believe it yet. With NLP, there's so many great tools to help rewire the brain to believe it. So it kind of speeds up that process a little bit better, but a little bit quicker. But you can still do that with those, and those pattern interrupts though, they're key.
Yeah.
They are key. It's
And I
huge.
come up with that with my women too in the affirmations. We want to be truthful to ourselves. And a
Yeah,
big
of
part,
course.
we feel like we're lying. And I always say is is it 100% true that you're not good enough? No.
Right.
Okay. Well, it is. It's just that you don't believe it right now. And it's
Mhm.
okay for you to say, I'm struggling with believing that I'm good enough. However, I know that I want to feel like I'm good enough. And a part of making that happen is reaffirming that to myself every single day, right? It's not feeling like you have to lie to yourself, because that is why we start to not trust, is because we do lie to ourselves. But let's be real. I've lied to myself all the time about things, right?
I'd
That were
rather
hurting.
lie to myself that I'm worthy than I'm unworthy or that I'm
Yes.
not enough.
Yes. Yes. Like all the times I lied to myself, like, oh, you can eat this whole pie and you'll be just fine. Like, what?
Right.
You know, like, okay. So pick your lie. Pick your lie. Yeah.
Right, right, exactly. Oh my gosh, I love it. You have a freebie for our guests. Would you like to speak about that? It's around self-doubt.
Yeah. So the free conquering, it's my conquering self-doubt guide. It's a guide that I put together that have all the steps that I have followed to help myself to get over the self-doubt, to help myself to learn to love myself. That's the biggest missing piece when it comes to doubting yourself, is you just don't love and value yourself. And if you think about, when you love something so much, you have no doubt in your mind that it's the best thing ever and that you trust it and want it and need it. And so overcoming that self-doubt is the part of the guide, is guiding you through it, giving you the steps, giving you the actionable things that you can do daily, and the pattern interrupts too, to help you to achieve overcoming that self-doubt and
Mm.
stepping into that space of self-love, self-worth, self-belief, and wanting to show up for yourself every single day. So I gave you the link so that it should be in the show notes wherever. So click that link. And I know oftentimes you get to that and you're like, oh, I have to put my name and email in there. And we get afraid that you're going to be spam, scam, whatever, with all this emails. I promise you, I am far too busy. You will get 2 emails. Once you get your email, with your guide, I send out 2, 3 emails max a month because I'm respectful. I don't want to lose people's trust by sending an email every single day. And 2,
Ooh.
I don't enjoy sending an email every day. So no worries about that. I always feel it's so important to say that because there are times that I'll go, I'm like, I really want this guide, but I really don't want everything else that's coming with it. So just want to preface that if there's any
Oh,
fears around it.
that's amazing. Thank you so much. That's really generous too to be able to offer that, and I'm sure people will go and check that out. Yes, everything will be in the show notes, so you all can find her. You'll find the freebie. You'll also find her on Instagram and her podcast. She's got all sorts of great ways that you can connect with Tara. So, Tara, thank you so much for being here. This was amazing.
It was so awesome. Thank you for having me. I loved connecting with you. I love having this time with you, learning from you, and just feeling like I'm in a space of a woman that gets me.
Ah,
That, right? I mean, even in our trials and tribulations and difficult moments, we have that connection, and I appreciate that. And this time with you has been amazing. So thank you.
yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next week with the next episode. Take care.